Hello and welcome to part 8 of our 8-part video series for the Micro Focus iPrint Appliance 2.0. My name is Bob Johnson with Micro Focus Technical Support, and in this video we are going to be migrating from the iPrint Appliance 1.1 to the iPrint Appliance 2.0. As you prepare to migrate, please make sure that the iPrint Appliance 1.1 is fully patched with the latest patches, which are available here at this link. Also, print or cancel any pending print jobs in the 1.1 appliance. And note that you cannot migrate directly from 1.0 or 1.0.1 to the 2.0 version. You must update these earlier versions to 1.1, apply the latest patches, and then migrate to 2.0. As a side note, if you're familiar with the terminology in the 1.1 appliance, we use the term upgrade. However, in the appliance 2.0, we are using the term migrate. The process is the same, and we'll go through that process now. Also, something to be aware of, when you deploy the 2.0 appliance in preparation to migrate from 1.1, and you get to this screen, you'll need to make sure that the host name and IP address and the network settings match those of the 1.1 appliance. You can't deviate from this. For example, you can't decide to change the host name. You can't decide to change the IP address from what it was in the 1.1 appliance. The migration assumes the network settings will be the same. So make note of your 1.1 network settings prior to this migration, and that way when you get to this screen you'll be able to fill it in appropriately and the migration will succeed. Once you've confirmed that you've met the prerequisites for migrating from 1.1 to 2.0, the first step is to create the iPrint config.zip file. This is done by accessing the iPrint Appliance 1.1's management console. So if you'll go to the DNS name or IP address of your 1.1 appliance, :9443, log in as VA admin, click on iPrint Appliance Configuration, click on Export Configuration, and then here you'll provide the eDirectory administrator password you configured when you set up the appliance, and click Export. Depending on your specific iPrint appliance environment, and more specifically depending on how many drivers you have uploaded to the iPrint system, this process can take a while. For our purposes, we'll pause the video and skip forward to the point where the export has completed. Once the export is complete, the page should change and you should be presented with this blue download the latest exported configuration file link. Simply click on the link, save the file. Again, the file name is iPrint config.zip, and by default it would be saved in your downloads directory. Click OK. Once the configuration file has been saved, we can go to the next step, which is to deploy the iPrint Appliance 2.0 in preparation for the migration. You should note that since we've exported the configuration of the Appliance 1.1, you don't want to make any changes to your iPrint Appliance 1.1 between the time that we deploy the iPrint Appliance 2.0 and the time that we actually go through the migration, as any changes made in between this time will obviously not be migrated. Another item to consider is that part of this process of migrating the Appliance 1.1 to 2.0 requires that you shut down the 1.1 appliance. So obviously, if you do not want printing to be disrupted, we recommend you going through this process after hours. In my lab, I'm using a VMware ESXi server with the vSphere client. I've confirmed that the iPrint Appliance 1.1 has been shut down, and I'm now ready to deploy the iPrint Appliance 2.0 OVF template. If you'd like very detailed information about this process, you can refer to video 1 of this 8-part series. To deploy the template, I click on File, Deploy OVF Template, Browse to the location of the iPrint Appliance 2.0 OVF file, select it, click Open, click Next, click Next. I'll leave this at the default as it shows me the specific version that I'm running. You could change the name if you'd like. Click Next. We'll leave this at the default. Click Next. Make sure Power On After Deployment is not selected and click Finish. The deployment process takes several minutes depending on your environment. For the purposes of this video, we will pause and resume when the OVF template has completed deployment. Now that the template has been deployed successfully, click Close. I now select the virtual machine, and before powering on this virtual machine, we need to edit the virtual machine settings. We can leave everything at the default, however, we do need to add a secondary hard disk. Click Add, select Hard Disk, click Next. Create a new virtual disk can be left at the default. For our purposes, we will leave the disk size at the default of 16 gigabytes. One of the purposes of the secondary hard disk is to store held jobs for our new walk-up printing feature. You can also refer to video 1 for detailed information about this feature. Depending on your environment and the size of the print jobs you think might be held if you're going to use walk-up printing, you may want to adjust this disk size. Once you specify the disk size, click Next. You can leave this at the default and click Next and Finish and OK. At this point, we can power on the virtual machine. And you can click on the Console tab if you're using the vSphere client to watch the power up process. And again, for purposes of this video, we will pause and resume once this has finished booting up. On this screen, click Accept. On this screen, you'll specify the root and VA admin passwords. I like to keep them the same as what I had configured in the 1.1 appliance for consistency purposes. Verify your region and time zone. Also set the appropriate NTP server for your environment. Click Next. And here at the host name, you need to make sure that, again, the network settings you specify here match those of the 1.1 appliance. As an example, in my iPrint Appliance 1.1, the server host name is server1.johnsonlab.com. The service for iPrint is called iPrint.johnsonlab.com. So what I need to specify here is server1.johnsonlab.com. The IP address is 192.168.1.40. And I made a modification to my DNS server in the 1.1 appliance, and I added an optional DNS server. And my domain search is johnsonlab.com. So as long as these network settings match what I configured in the 1.1 appliance, when I do the migration, this should succeed. If you were to change the DNS name or the IP address, the migration might look as though it completed successfully, but when you go in to try to manage the migrated appliance, you're going to get some unusual errors, and at that point your only option is to go back through and redeploy the iPrint Appliance 2.0 and specify the correct network settings. Once you've confirmed that you have the correct settings, click Next. For the purposes of our video, we'll skip to the next section. On this screen, we're configuring the secondary hard disk that we added. I leave everything at the default. I leave the file system type at ext3 and click Configure. and for the purposes of this video, we'll skip to the end. Once you see this screen, you're ready to launch the management console in a web browser, which will take us to the next portion of the migration process. To complete the migration process, open the management console in a web browser by going to the DNS or IP address of the iPrint Appliance 2.0:9443. If you're running this from Firefox, the first time you access the management console, you're going to get prompted with a message like this. Go ahead and click on Advanced, Add Exception, Confirm Security Exception, and then you'll be taken to the management console. In the management console, we log in as VA admin, and the password we specified when we installed and configured the appliance. Because this is a brand new configuration, the management console knows that we either have an option to create a new appliance or migrate an existing iPrint appliance. And since we're going to be migrating an existing iPrint appliance, we'll click that. On this screen, this is an informational message concerning AirPrint printers. If your iPrint appliance 1.1 used AirPrint publish printers, click yes and make note of this additional information. In iPrint Appliance 2.0, there is limited support for AirPrint printers. You can click on the link to the administration guide for additional details. You can also reference the knowledge base articles as seen in this next slide. The short version of what this means is that if you have AirPrint enabled printers in the 1.1 version of the iPrint appliance and you migrate your 1.1 appliance to the 2.0 version, your AirPrint printers will no longer work. In my case, since I do not have AirPrint printers configured, I will click back. Click Migrate Existing iPrint Appliance. Click No. Browse to the iPrintConfig.zip. Highlight it. Click Open. We then provide the admin password as specified in the iPrint Appliance 1.1. This is the eDirectory admin password, and click Finish. And again, depending on your hardware and depending on the size of the driver store in your 1.1 appliance, this process can take a while. For the purposes of this video, we'll skip to the end of the migration where we will be notified that the migration was a success. Alright, once you're at this screen, congratulations, the migration has completed successfully. Make note that it says the iPrint appliance will now reboot. You can click on OK, and at this point it takes you back to the management console. However, you may see this particular error as the appliance is actually in the process of restarting. If I bring up the vSphere client, you'll see that I'm still at the initial login screen. In several seconds, you'll notice that the appliance will start to go through a reboot process. Once the appliance has been successfully restarted, then you can go back into the management console and you should be able to access your configuration. Now that the appliance has restarted, we will go back to the management console. Again, this is https:// the host name of the iPrint server or IP address :9443. Because we've done a migration, we've actually ended up with new certificates, so we're going to click Advanced, Add Exception, and we're going to confirm the security exception. And then we're taken to the management console sign-in screen. And at this point we can click Manage iPrint Appliance. And here we see the 3 printers that we migrated. You can click on Mobile, And note that our mobile configuration came across during the migration. We can click on renderers, and we can see that the rendering information migrated as well. There is an additional step that we need to take as part of the migration. If in the 1.1 version of the iPrint appliance you had configured a remote renderer, we have to go through a process of upgrading that remote renderer to be compatible with the 2.0 appliance. And that is something we'll do later on in this video. The other thing we can do is we can go to the PSM status page and we can look at the status of the printers. Add the exception, confirm security exception, log in as admin. And here are our 3 printers. They're in an idle state. We can go to Advanced iPrint, Manager Information. We can generate a report. In my environment, we had Windows 7 64-bit drivers. We can click Generate Report, and then we can verify that the drivers came across for these particular printers as well. We could also go to the IPP page just to make sure they show up in the printer installation page, which they do. And we could install each of these printers based on what we're looking at in the PSM status and in the report. We're going to assume that the migration was successful. So the only thing we have to do at this point is update our remote renderer, which we'll do now. As mentioned earlier, once the migration is complete, we need to upgrade the remote renderer. After you've completed the migration and you're checking your renderers, if your migrated renderer happens to be in an inactive state, try refreshing the screen. And if it goes to active, as it did in this case, we're in good shape. If it did not go to an active state, one thing to make sure is that the newly migrated appliance can still communicate to the renderer, meaning can the iPrint appliance ping the host name of the renderer. Because in the 1.1 appliance I configured my renderer over a secure channel, I had to make sure that the 1.1 appliance could ping the host name of my renderer. To do that, open a PuTTY session to the appliance, and in the PuTTY session you can try pinging the host name of your remote renderer. Log in as root, and the host name of my renderer is renderer-pc.johnsonlab.com. And I am able to ping. If you are not able to ping the host name of your remote renderer, open your host file with VI. Just type vi/etsy/hosts. And then at the end of the host file, add an entry for the host name of your remote renderer in the format that you see here. For example, the IP address of my remote renderer is 192.168.1.117, and then the host name is renderer-pc.johnsonlab.com. If you haven't used VI before, the method to enter data once in the file is to press the insert key, add the data you would like, and then press the escape key, a colon, a W for write, and a Q for quit, and that will write the changes to your host file. And then attempt to ping your remote renderer, and the assumption is you'll be able to ping the renderer at this point. And then come back to the management console and do a refresh, and the state of the renderer should go to an active state. Once the remote renderer is in an active state, then the next step is to simply update the software. We're not going to go through the step-by-step process because that process is the same as demonstrated in video 5 of this 8-part video series. So if you'll refer to video 5, it will step you through the process of downloading the software on the PC you've designated as your remote renderer, and it will step you through the process of configuring the renderer again. This concludes video 8 of our 8-part video series for the Micro Focus iPrint Appliance 2.0. Hopefully you found these videos helpful and informative. The Micro Focus iPrint Appliance 2.0 offers cross-platform self-service printing for the enterprise. The appliance allows users to print to your current network printers from their desktops, laptops, and mobile devices. It integrates with your Active Directory and eDirectory environments to provide seamless authentication for your users. The Micro Focus iPrint Appliance 2.0 offers a single scalable solution for managing all of your printing across multiple office locations from any device. Thank you again for watching.